Today, we're talking with Isabelle Hughes, head of growth at EXA, about product-led growth. Welcome to BeyondSaaS. I'm Jason Niedle, founder of Tethos. We solve growth problems for tech companies, and we've taken what we've learned from amazing leaders like Isabelle and turned that into a hypergrowth playbook. Check out tethos.com/podcast or drop me the word growth, and I'll get that to you. So Isabelle is the head of growth at EXA, which is an applied AI lab looking to perfect web search. And to create the most powerful web search, they are using not keywords, but neural methods that actually give you what you want. And there's kind of a secret behind all these billions of web pages out there that many of the search tools that are being grown and being used are actually third-party engines, and EXA is often the engine behind that. So they have web sets, which are AI agents that generate really hard-to-find leads and data lists in seconds. And then they also have an API that allows developers to integrate live web search and crawling and AI-enhanced summarizations directly into their products quickly. So Isabelle's grown revenue 10 times in 1 year, and she has built and scaled early-stage startups, crafting GTMs and driving revenue and optimizing operations with a background at McKinsey. So I like that strategy and execution that you have there. And I love that you have a passion to take ambitious ideas and then turn them into actual businesses. And one little area that we have in common, we both studied philosophy and then ended up doing something else. So welcome.
Oh, no, great to be here, Jason. Great to meet you.
I'm excited. Before we jump in, do you have a quick tip for people?
Yes, my quick tip, maybe a little bit different to past tips, is meet customers in person and really get to know them. You can have the best product in the world and the best systems enabling sort of anything go to market. But if your customers don't like you, they're more likely to say no and less likely to say yes. And so I found meeting them and really building that rapport has been one of my big unlocks for the past year.
Do you guys do a lot of trade shows in that regard or industry events?
It's not even that. It's more just coffees, lunches, trying to meet them if they're in the Bay. We're still going to actually do a big trip to the East Coast and meet all of our East Coast customers in sort of a couple week whirlwind tour and just get to know them a bit, get some FaceTime and sort of get to know them on like a personal level.
I love that. Quick aside before we jump in, we've struggled to find a fair balance of women guests on the show, and I think we're doing better now. But why do you think that is?
I think the AI space in San Francisco, I mean, historically, it has been quite male dominated. It is getting better. Even my company has kind of found that. It's sort of like we started off quite skewed to men, but now we've got a few more women in the space. I think it is the classic thing of it is daunting as a woman to maybe join an all-male team. And the more women you get, there's kind of a little bit of an aura effect, and then you might follow people you see a woman being excellent and doing great things in the space, and sort of you want to follow them. I know it is personally intimidating to basically make that leap. So I think it is just a little bit of that aura effect, and the more women you'll get in the space, the more that'll follow. It just takes a few to crack in. Yeah.
I never thought about that self-reinforcing element of it. It gets harder and harder at some degree as there's more and more concentration of men. It actually gets harder to change the situation.
Yeah, of course.
So tell our listeners a little bit about EXA.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you did sort of hit the nail on the head at the beginning, but basically at EXA, we're trying to build an AI native search engine. So, I mean, what does that really mean? We're looking to basically go out and find all the useful knowledge on the web. So all the things that you actually care about, not the ads, not the noise. We're trying to find all the places where there's actually information and build our own database of that. We're then actually training our own models to do retrieval over that index is what we call it, using natural language. So that's sort of the piece that's a little bit different. We're using embeddings so that you can query our index using natural language to find exactly what you want. So it's basically describing as you would anything. I'm looking for early stage AI startups looking to automate legal processes that are funded by XYZ VC. That kind of search is very, very tough in like a traditional keyword search engine, but you can do that approximate semantic type search using EXO and describe exactly what you want and we'll return it to you. We have a couple of products, as you mentioned. There's like the API, which is designed to really integrate with any LLM flow or AI application anyone's building. Think chatbot, think mass data enrichment, think Copilot or social media application that might want to pull in web sources. And then we have web sets, which is actually ask the question of, what would happen if we put more time and more compute behind a query so that we could actually give you a data set of the web? So this is really like making that unstructured, complex web data and turning it into essentially a customized data set, which we call a web set. That's a little bit about what we're doing. And we really view ourselves as a research lab. So we actually have 7 to 8 at the moment ML researchers who are basically hard at work, running algorithms, training models, doing experiments. And the remaining sort of 18 people at the company are doing more product and go-to-market and engineering work. But we really view ourselves as the research lab at the core, which is sort of asking, what does perfect search over the web look like?
Mm.
Which is a bit of a lofty goal, but that's really where we like see our mission, sort of getting to that point of you should be able to find anything you want on the web using simple language, and you should be able to find that in like, a few lines of code or the click of a button.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like in the early days of search was useful and you would go there and you would find things.
Mm-hmm.
And then now everyone has gamified it and there are so many ads. And on my main search engine, the first results are
Exactly.
ads. And then the next 10 people are people who have enough money to play the SEO game. And getting information has become really, really hard. And I have been
Mm-hmm.
finding for myself that now, you go to ChatGPT if you want information or you go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're actually focused on building that replacement model or that supercharged model, whatever we want to call it, to get to the next level. One thing that my guests are always asking is, what does search look like in the future from a business perspective, right? There's the consumer who wants data, but then there's the company that says, well, I want to make sure that I'm in front of my customers. And the biggest
Mm-hmm.
marketplace on earth is to be in front of that proper search engine. How do we do that now with models like yours?
Yeah, it is interesting. So one thing, I mean, we're trying to really actually solve for, which is maybe the scary world that you're alluding to, is the world where it's actually AI agents and AIs conducting all the searching. And so we're hoping to get them the best information. So even your example of, the first 5 results are an ad, how is an agent supposed to sort of decipher that and sift through that? You've asked for something and the agent's actually looking at ads. So we're trying to really solve for getting you exactly what you want and sort of none of that hacked or gamified results. But then to that point, it is a bit of a scary world, and whether SEO and all that kind of marketing online has really become quite a core channel for different companies. And I actually don't really know the answer in terms of like where does that head with our platform. Like I know we probably won't open ourselves up to like monetization in any kind of way, but
Because that's what diluted it from being great.
yeah, exactly. And so I think from a real mission and principle perspective, I couldn't see our company heading that way. And so I think it'll become other channels, right? The search engine might no longer become the channel to actually reach customers anymore. It might need to be some of the more traditional methods. If it's putting a billboard up in San Francisco, running events, doing some sort of viral marketing campaigns. And it'll be interesting to see, like with agents conducting more searches in the future and fewer human eyeballs on things like a traditional search engine, I think people will have to get creative in terms of other methods of growth. I don't think it'll ever go away. I think humans are going to still be engaging with search engines, but especially from an enterprise perspective, there'll be fewer enterprises perhaps doing searches online.
For sure. It's interesting because search initially was find the right location, right? Where is the foot traffic?
Mm-hmm.
And then that came to find the right location with a billboard and a yellow pages and some other ways. And then
Mm-hmm.
that came to, well, if the most people link to you, then you're the most important, right? That was Google's use case. Inbound links to college white papers, to college papers, research papers showed that that research paper was important. Therefore, inbound links was the key. Then that got fully gamified. And I feel like we've had 10 or 15 years that are not as useful as they were. And then
Mm-hmm.
now we're just getting back to the place where it sounds like you're saying you're not going to gamify it. You're just going to have the most useful information.
Yeah, you're going to have the information that people want. And the way we actually sort of train the models is to actually think about, based on the query, is this a document that helps answer that query? Or is it a document that other humans or other people online have spoken about a lot and view as, a verified and useful source? And unfortunately, if you don't fall into that bucket, your link might not appear.
So so I guess the old days of inbound links, so to speak, is still relevant in that people need to be referring to you somehow or another still.
Yeah. Yeah. Still need to be on the web and have a web presence
And
and be
have people
referred
see
to.
that as valuable.
Yes, exactly.
So there's something of the nature of the data, but then how useful other people have found that data.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very interesting. And how does this come about when there's always kind of this tension about like build the best thing and then build the thing that makes money?
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys resolve that tension? You have AI researchers and labs, and then you have a business model that has to, make a profit.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. We started a little bit as a consumer facing search engine, and then we realized actually like humans don't mind actually interacting with an interface and like a Google and sort of clicking through and even seeing ads and actually having that experience. And then we sort of really aligned that actually the people who want information or the very information dense sources on the web are the larger enterprises or people building out these agents. So it was really getting crisp on who the customer is and what the value proposition is. and finding those, what we like to think of it as like B2B to C, so high volume consumer products that our customers will be selling that need web search within them. You know, I can't give away too many names. We work with a lot of like writing assistants, for example, who, as you're like live writing, might do web search to pull in information to help you finish a sentence. CRMs that are pulling in information about every company within a CRM, lead generation, those sorts of tools. As I said,
Right.
co-pilots.
So maybe I have leads and I say, let's enrich those leads. And that enrichment search is not necessarily handled by that company, but behind the scenes by you guys, perhaps.
Exactly. So like, what are the latest products or the latest news, or who is the CIO of this company? We could help pull in that information in a couple of lines of code. And then really exciting ones are things like chatbots or co-pilots, where you might be asking a question like, I want to know about this thing or this topic. They don't have the context to actually respond. It would be using Exa as that infrastructure piece to pull in web search into a sort of a back and forth interaction with some kind of co-pilot or chat.
Sometimes I wonder when I'm chatting with my AIs, how much do they know from their data set and how much are they actually looking up?
Exactly.
Right?
And Exa would be that tool that the AI could call on to say, I need to find much more relevant or recent information. And so Exa could help do like a news search, for example.
Really cool. So let's talk about growth for you. What's your key metric for growth? Is it revenue? Is it clients? Is it searches? What are you really looking, your head of growth?
Yeah, at the moment it is revenue. So we are really trying to, we have two big motions. So PLG, which has been our sort of bread and butter and part of the core of our business for a while. So really, we want every developer to know about Exa and be using Exa in their tools. And then more and more enterprise, so becoming much more of an enterprise motion, finding those forward thinking enterprises who have just potentially signed a contract with a big LLM provider and now might be looking for search or the best type of search or the best type of retrieval, and actually really thinking, how can Exa plug in and kind of add value to their specific use case. What we find that is tough is that Exa is a general search engine. So it's tough to sort of pitch a general tool to specific use cases. And so the work for us has been finding those right sales signals of which enterprises are ready to make a purchasing decision and what use cases are most relevant to them, and really honing in, like it might be company search or people search, and actually really developing a use case or an MVP for them that makes sense in that specific niche, and then going from there. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to start as like, we could do everything and then, sell that.
Is that where your web sets came in?
A little bit. So websites is our new product. And where that comes in and sort of, as I said, our ideal customer for the API is like a B2B to C company. Websites is much more, we view it as like more of an internal use case. Like you're trying to find the best leads. You're a salesperson. You're looking to find the best ICPs, the best leads to outbound to. Or you're a recruiter and you're trying to find like the best recruits to place in like a very niche role. We found people using our API in that way. And we found them using it very low frequency, asking for more and more results and more accuracy. And we sort of said, oh, that's interesting. That's a different model, a different use case. So that's actually where websites came from. We said, okay, some people don't care that the search takes more than a second. So our API is about a second or under a second. And it's the same amount of compute every time, more or less. Websites is like, oh, well, if you don't care and you're actually very interested in finding 100 of the best software engineers in the Bay Area, that might take actually 10 minutes to run. It might need more compute. So we actually said, let's make a product that actually caters to that use case, which is much more of a B2B play of like recruiting teams, sales teams, where you can put as much compute or as much time as is needed to get the best results that you need. Whereas the API is sort of much more for this back and forth or math data enrichment use case. You can't wait 5-10 minutes for a response. So it's sort of that tension between the two use cases.
I feel like there's some sort of cool overlap that maybe is not there. You guys probably already thought of it, where the websites help you get to those verticals, right? Because you're saying in some ways you're general, but I feel like the websites could really be pre-crafted or focused on, or, I feel like there's some way to hit verticals with those.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think websites has been quite a clarifying product for us as well. Like an API is quite difficult to sell to a non-technical audience. And then websites is for both technical and non-technical audience. And it kind of clarifies what our API actually does fundamentally. So we've found more and more, especially with enterprises who come to us, we're actually selling both products. It's not an or, it's much more, oh, here is the API for this use case, and here is websites for this use case. The underlying technology is the same. It's still the Exa model, the Exa web index. It's just a different way of serving it up, essentially. So there's definitely an overlap. We're seeing it, in real time.
So it sounds like last year you had about a 10x growth, but from a relatively smaller number. What are you looking at for this year?
My CEO would say, do it again.
Of course.
Of course.
Do it
I
again.
think similar. We're aiming to double every quarter, so that's kind of gets us to a similar spot. So that is our core metric: doubling revenue every quarter. And obviously, we've got two products in parallel. The split between the products, honestly, we have an idea in our head. We have an idea of how many customers we'd like, but the core one we're driving towards is doubling every quarter. And we feel there is a lot of tailwinds in the space. And honestly, the market is more and more ready actually for AI enabled search. Maybe a year ago it wasn't quite ready, but
Mm.
agents are coming. Everyone's building some sort of AI enabled application or workflow. Web search is becoming more and more important, or it's becoming quite obvious that it's more and more important. The launch of things like Search GPT, and Anthropic and Claude just released web search. It's kind of obvious that there's a space in the market. And so we're really looking to kind of capture it and make sure that when people think of web search, they do think of Exa.
It's funny because I feel like 2 years ago, I personally thought, oh, nothing will ever dethrone these two or three biggest search things. But it's like everything in tech, right? Once
Mm-hmm.
upon a time, no one ever thought that anyone could dethrone Blockbuster, and then comes along Netflix. So it's nice that finally we can start to see some alternatives where everything is not so monopolistic feeling, and you can have a
Mm-hmm.
young startup out there, working hard to make something change. How do you get there? How do you get to 2x growth per quarter?
I think there has been a bit of work, definitely around product market fit and product market price fit as well, obviously, like figuring out, the product in the market might fit, but the price might not. That's been a big thing for us. The other one has been really understanding our customers and therefore like who are we actually going after, and then what are the challenges, what would drive business value for them, and therefore how do we reach them. So with marketing, this has looked like consistent messaging and marketing. It's more things out there, more content, more collateral. For the developer crowd and developer marketing, it has really been publishing more technical articles about our research and our blogs, which has really helped recruiting actually, like finding those ML researchers, and open sourcing a lot of demos. So we've been
Mm.
putting a lot of stuff out there. Some customers honestly come to us and say, I wanted something to research companies and generate a report on a company for me. We've got a demo that does that, and you can just copy paste, take it, replicate in your own space. And so we've had some customers do that. So it's sort of those pieces. The other one that we've found that's been really important is actually just speed. I think being a nimble, small startup, the go-to-market team can be very quick and responsive to customers. We can push people through a process very quickly. We can be very responsive when it comes to negotiations, contracts, procurement. And it also means we can be very responsive when it comes to products. So we don't really have a dedicated product team. It is really go-to-market interfacing with engineering directly. And it does mean we can be very responsive and make sure that we're hitting the mark with customers and that our roadmap is being directly influenced by customers, like in lifetime. Obviously, there is some filtering. It's not like every request gets put onto the roadmap, but there is really no barrier between engineering and go-to-market, which I think has really, really helped.
And pretty rare. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's working for us right now at our scale. I'm imagining there will be a time when we need to have much more of a dedicated product team, but it's been working so far. The other thing that we've found worked is really framing using our tool as a value driver. So we're not cutting costs, we're not efficiency driving. We're actually, let's say that we're going to make recruiting a lot quicker for you. That means you're going to find great candidates. It's not about saving you time, it's actually about finding you the best candidates and getting the best talent through the door, and really reframing our tool as driving value as opposed to saving money, if that makes sense.
100%. So those are all the things that are working. Now, if we look at the constraints, like what are your internal constraints? What if you could get
Yeah.
rid of something, what would make you grow faster or change something?
Yeah. For us, I think the thing that we're really battling with now, which I think is a classic growing pain, is the sort of the having the systems, the data and the processes in place that will allow us to scale to like a much bigger business. And it is this direct trade-off of moving quickly, which is what we really do right now. We bias to action, we bias to moving quickly, versus building for the scale. And so that is a direct tension right now with like very like resource constrained team. Should we be focused on selling the thing and being out there and talking to customers? Or should we spend some time to really think about, okay, what are the systems and pieces that we need to make this $100 million business? It's like, that is a direct trade-off. And I think it's a mixture of headcount and mind share, honestly. And I think if there's something that I could change today, it would be that we would just have those systems already set up and we would be ready to go. But obviously the team needs to sit down and really think and be thoughtful on what those look like. And right now that's the big tension, sort of flying the plane while building it.
I've heard that time and time again, that there's always
Yeah.
this tension between startup mindset versus how do we have a structure that allows us to physically scale and grow in that way, and then how do you always balance those two out? It's always interesting.
Yeah, that is our big one. And we're getting better and better, but we've had to sort of had some hard lessons along the way. You do something scrappily, doesn't quite work. So then we have the hard lesson of, okay, next time let's do it properly and thoughtfully. And I think we are getting better, but it is really like a trade-off. Do you invest a week here to maybe save you a month down the line, or do you just kind of push it through and actually maybe cost you a couple of weeks down the line? It's that classic scenario.
Sure. And do you guys have angels or venture capitalists who are pushing as well on top of all that?
I think right now, not so much. We kind of get a focus every quarter, double revenue, invest more in marketing, hire more, sort of the same sort of messages at the moment. I think things are going well enough that we don't have a huge amount of sort of pressure. It's much more internal pressure, I would say. Most of the pressure is coming from ourselves. So it's a good place to be in, but we're looking to grow quickly. And so I think the pressure is only going to ratchet up really as our customers become more higher stakes and, the company gets bigger.
100%. What are some other lessons that you've kind of taken in all your growth journeys, I guess we can call it, over time? Like, what are lessons that other leaders should know about growth?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that really stand out to me, especially in a space where it's becoming easier and easier to build tech, and you can just kind of get an LLM to do most of it for you and sort of build a product quite quickly. I think as products become easier to build, there is really something around having empathy for your customers and really thinking about what do they really care about and what is really going to make them make a purchasing decision, essentially. Like, everyone loves testing free products, but the real question is whether someone's going to pay for it. And I think having that empathy about where value really is for them and what they care about, I think that's a big thing with AI products, especially. Like, you can build a cool and interesting product, but it doesn't mean customers are going to care about it or make that decision. And there is a money point where they have to be like, yeah, it is worth the money. And I think having that empathy and that thought is something that I think is going to be more and more important, actually, as you've got an AI startup popping up for every supposed problem and thing. So, and I think they might have missed potentially, or miss that step of what am I really solving for someone. Yeah, I think having great technology and a great product doesn't always mean that it's solving really real business problems. It's probably one of my big lessons over the past year.
Yeah, so critical. So the world feels pretty turbulent right now. What trends do you see ahead?
So in the Bay Area right now, it's a really hot spot. I think there's going to be more and more startups popping up. It's a pretty exciting space to be in. I do think, however, this year, one of my predictions is we're going to see the first proper wave of maybe fails or AI startups that didn't quite make it or starting to fold. It's been a really hot space for the past couple of years. I think it's been a lot of success stories. And I do think later in the year there might be a little bit of a change in the tide for some. And we'll start to see a little bit of a wane in the space, or the first couple of heads to roll. I think that'll be very interesting to see how everything reacts.
Yeah, at some point there has to be a culling, right? The strong will survive, but what happens to the rest of them, right? A lot of people have been getting money and not solving problems necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's coming in the next 12 months. I'm watching the space. There's always new scandals sort of hitting the news. And I think in the next 12 months, it'll be very interesting to see who's really stuck and it's going to stick around, and who didn't quite get there. And really what drove that, because that'll be a big lesson for anyone in this space to sort of take note.
Really interesting. Any final thoughts for our listeners here?
No, I think the main one is, really have empathy for your customers and meet them. I think getting to know people and not forgetting the social part of running a business and that interpersonal piece, I think that's really important to remember.
I love that. So this has been really fun. Where can our audience find you?
You can obviously find me on LinkedIn. You can find Isabelle Hughes. That's my main spot where I'm active, mainly sharing pieces about Exa and our growth. I would then also actually follow the Exa Twitter account if people want to see where our lab is and how we're progressing. And one more plug for all the salespeople, recruiters listening to this, definitely try Exa websets. it'll find you great talent. It'll find you the best leads. It'll kind of get you that edge in the space. So definitely test out the tool.
And that's Exa, just like it sounds, EXA.ai, Exa.ai. Isabelle, thank you so much for being on Beyond SaaS. And for our tech leaders out there, we're committed to exploring growth. So we're dropping episodes twice a week. That's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can find me, Jason Niedle, at tethos.com, TETHOS.com, where you can also grab that hyperscale playbook at tethos.com/podcast. So I really appreciate it. Share the episode, drop some questions and comments. And until next time, this is Beyond SaaS.